So the divisional round in the NFL playoffs is complete, and the NFC and the AFC championships are set. The Saints got the victory over the Eagles today, and the Rams got the victory. It's going to be a rematch of the regular season game, same location, but the two teams are in different places. So in this video, we're going to break down what happened in this game with the Saints defeating the Eagles and what to expect next week going against the Rams in the NFC title for a chance to go to Atlanta for the Super Bowl. We're starting right now. What up, dude? What's up, everybody? It's Aaron Duncan here at the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk, the channel where I might not tell you what you want to hear, but I'm definitely going to tell you what you need to hear, and I give you a recap and analysis of the NFC South and the whole NFL. So if you guys want to see more videos about the Saints, the Bucks, the Panthers, or the Falcons, make sure you hit the subscribe button below, guys. Get a video thumbs up. Hey, real quick down below in the comments, let me know what you thought about the game overall. Like, did you think that the Saints were going to get blown out early on when the Eagles came out smoking? Nick Foles started off hot, not to mention Drew Brees threw a pick on the first play. Let me know what you thought about the game down below in the comments. But as for me, I'm not going to lie. I thought the Eagles were kind of going to roll. I thought it was going to be a little bit more higher scoring game, especially how I saw it starting out. I didn't think the Eagles would hit that much of a wall after the first quarter, but you saw what happened. Drew Brees, it seemed like early on the game plan for Sean Peyton was just kind of stupid. I know you were getting Ted Ginn back and you wanted to say he was going to make some impact because you knew they're going to be focused on Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So it seemed like the game plan was too dumb to just force it to Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn is a factor, but he's not a guy that you kind of just force it to him. You let him open up different things for in the passing game because it's a deep threat. You let him run, take the top off. You let him run some deep crosses. You let him clear out for Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara underneath. You don't just try to force the ball to him just because you think that everybody else is going to focus on him. So you do that. The Saints, I mean, they took a shot. They wanted to pick on the Eagles secondary who's been beat up and who they took advantage of in the first matchup, and I understand why. However, it wasn't a great pass by Brees. There was some contact, but it's the playoffs, and it seemed like from this game they were going to let the guys play for the most part. The refs were kind of they were pretty hands-offish. They started out slow. They ended up calling a lot of stuff. Speaking of penalties, Andrews Pete tried to single-handedly lose the game himself with false starts and holdings, and he was clearly outmatched by Fletcher Cox on the inside, and Fletcher Cox getting hurt was a big time factor for the Eagles because as soon as he came out, the running game started to open up a little bit. The Saints started taking advantage, and they got back in the game. Yeah, they got down 14-0. However, you kind of felt that it was a long game, and the Eagles kind of just took their foot off the gas. Doug Peterson, I don't know what his game plan was as far as once they got on top of them. Like, you have to know that this team is not going to let up. Even though they were struggling, the defense was playing well. It seemed like everything turned once that long drive came. They kind of tired out that defense and that front four, which is so deep for the Eagles. And that was a big drive. And it just seemed like that was a turning point. Yes, the fake or some kind of special teams play by Taysom Hill saved the game again, kind of like Tampa Bay or kind of like multiple games during the season where that little play like that could change the momentum. It was a tough situation for Doug Peterson. They talked about it in the broadcast, of course. If you take the penalty, you give the Saints 3rd and 11. But if you decline the penalty like most coaches would do, expecting them to go for it. I mean, not expecting them to go for it on 4th down. But it happened. It was a desperation move, but it paid off. It ended up being the turning tide of the game. And it was kind of downhill from there. Once they started to get going, you were just like, the Eagles have to do something to make this a more difficult game. But it was still tough. Like at halftime, the Saints had to feel pretty good that they pretty much played horrible, but they were only down 4. They did lose Sheldon Rankins out for the season, towards Achilles. He's been probably top 5, definitely top 10, maybe top 5, arguably defensive tackle in the league this year. So that'll be big to not have him for the Rams game next week, especially this time in the playoffs. But you're kind of nervous about what's going on that front. As far as that injury. However, I don't think anybody else pretty much got beat up in the game besides him. So, but that's still a big loss on that part. Defensively, defense started off very, very slow. Of course, they picked on Eli Apple as usual, but it was a little bit suspect. I'm not going to lie. The Eagles were able to kind of run the ball a little bit effectively. They kind of tightened up eventually once the game got close, but it seemed like the Eagles, they tried to stick to the game plan of forcing themselves to run the ball since they didn't last time too much, and they kind of overcommitted. Doug Peterson, he can be pass happy when Carson Wentz is in there, but typically with Nick Foles, he stays pretty balanced. Today, he tried to force it to balance. Like, I felt like they should have kind of forced the issue a little bit more with the passing game. It seemed like they didn't really get the RPOs going like they normally do, but it is what it is. You got to give Marshon Lattimore some credit for making that play. Switching off on that coverage, because Zach Ertz, he did have a step, but Nick Foles threw it to a point. He threw it as a jump ball instead of just throwing it over the top. And Marshon Lattimore competed. He wanted the ball more, and that ended up being a big turning point in the game also, because the Eagles had a big play waiting to happen, and the Saints ended up getting the takeaway there. And towards the end of the game, like, those extra possessions count. This is the playoffs. Every possession is gonna count regardless. You can't just give the ball away. Nick Foles, I told my friend earlier, like, if he gave possessions away to the Saints like he did last week to the Bears, it wasn't gonna end up the way it did last week. They got away with it last week with Cody Parkey missing, and it came back to bite them today. Every possession counts. It was just tough because they got some plays from Alshon Jeffry, but he ended up dropping the play that ended up sealing the game and falling right into Marshon Lattimore's lap. Will Lutz had been great all year, but he wants to wait till the playoffs to miss a field goal. My saying is, don't trust these kickers ever. They're head cases. Will Lutz had missed, 2 field goals all year? Then he decided to miss one to make the game interesting. And then once they started going down the field, started getting kind of nervous, reminded me of last week with the Bears game. So it was pretty tough. You know what I'm saying? But the Saints, they just, I guess what happened, my explanation is, this is why you don't sit guys for 3 straight weeks before the playoff game. I know you want to get healthy and you have the bye week, but you can see the rust clearly with the offense. The offense hadn't been great anyway up until then. They had definitely hitting the wall in the season, but especially if the rhythm of your offense is struggling, you don't want to sit them for 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So it took them a while to start finding Kamara. It took them a while to figure out we should just throw it to Michael Thomas every time because nothing else is working. And that's what they decided to do once they figured out they found something. And the Eagles refused to go to man coverage to try to double team them. So they kept taking what it is. And as the game wore on, the front four got more tired, and they couldn't get to Drew Brees anymore. And he was able to get what he wanted in the deep crossing routes. And time again, those deep crosses ended up being the conversions that the Saints needed. Going into next week with the Rams, it'll be a rematch. It's going to be a completely different game. That was the Rams' first loss that year. It was in what week was that? Week 6, 7, somewhere. I don't know what it was. But the Rams, they've been up and down also since that game. And the Saints, they had a hot streak, of course, but they kind of sizzled off towards the end. And they, like I said, you can see the rhythm early on in the game. They struggled. The Rams, they actually looked very good last night. I'm not going to lie. So it'll be interesting to see how this game is going to be. Like I said, Sheldon Rankins will be out. This game, Aqib Talib will be back for them. We'll see what Andrews Pete will be able to do with Aaron Donald on the inside because he's not going to have any drop-off because you have Fletcher Cox this week, one of the best D tackles, to Aaron Donald, the best D tackle and probably Defensive Player of the Year. So we'll see what he'll be able to handle in there. Like I said, this game was at home, and for him to play such a rough game as far as holdings and false starts, it makes you kind of nervous. But we'll see what happens next week. You guys let me know down below in the comments. Like I said, what you thought about the game. What's your prediction for next week's game? Of course, I'll do a preview video for that. But let me know down below in the comments what you thought. But without further ado, I'm Aaron Duncan signing off for the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I'll see you next time.